Oh, we're live stream on Hog Out, and we've got plenty to talk about. India playing England. Virat Kohli going back into having to play first-class cricket. Steve Smith, he's got a milestone. We'll talk about that and plenty more. And we have got a special guest. It's Shreyas. Could be Shreyas Iyer. Let's find out on the other side. Well, let's get straight into it. England versus India. India won the first two games quite comfortably. And then all of a sudden, they had to chase a score in the last game. And England's pace attack were just too much. But there's been some good news coming out of this particular series. The first one is Mohammad Shami coming back into the fray from injury. It was a pity that he wasn't down here in Australia, playing against Australia in the Test series. If he was here, there might have been a little bit of a difference because he is a quality bowler, getting that border move, but also that sheer pace as well. He never gives up. So it's great to see him back. Probably wasn't the best performance that you'll see from Mohammad Shami in his comeback game, but you've got to throw him out there. You've got to expose him back in international cricket. You've got to get those gears going, and he'll be ripe and ready when it comes to the Champions Trophy. So they're just building him up for that Champions Trophy. So don't be too alarmed, India, because this T20 tournament against England, yes, you want to win it. At the end of the day, you want to work out your depth and you want to make sure players like Shami are getting that match fitness for the bigger tournaments. And next up, we've got to talk about an England player, Adil Rashid. He's the number one T20 bowler in the world. I just love the way that he goes about it. He's not the quickest leg spinner going around. You sit there, you watch him, you think you can line him up, you think that he should be able to be hit all over the park, but he hits good areas, good variations. He really is very diligent in his game plan, and he gets the ball to turn a little bit, which causes a batsman just to be a little bit cautious. And through this series, he's only picked up a couple of wickets, maybe around about 3 wickets from memory, but his economy rate is 5.5. And when your spinner is operating like that in the middle overs, all of a sudden the pressure is on the batsman to attack the other bowlers. And those fast bowlers from England have been hitting that good area, that good length, especially in the last game. And India had their troubles against them in that last game. So England just starting to find their feet with the ball. They probably need to improve in the bat and someone to help Butler out if they're going to get back into this series and go to 180 with the series 2-all. It's a big one tonight in Pune. Who are we talking about next? Let's get that one up. Chakravarti, number 5 bowler in the world. And I tell you what, Harry Brook has got no idea against Chakravarti. I've been really looking at that contest. Couple of wrong-uns. Brook just trying to play him through the offside. The last time Chakravarti got him out, I loved it how the ball just went between bat and pad, hit the stumps. Brooks turned around, looked at Chakravarti, who was walking out the cover celebrating, just giving him the big stare. And Brooks just smiled at him and said, "Mate, you're too good for me, and I've got to find a way to play you." So it's great to see Chakravarti really dominating in T20 cricket. And hopefully he might be able to get more games in that longer format in the 50-over game as well, because he's very good with the white ball. The next one that we're going to talk about is Arshdeep Singh. Left arm quick up front. The first game especially, I really loved the way that he was swinging the ball both ways. And he generally picks a wicket up first over most times that he plays T20 internationals and even T20 in the IPL as well, because of the swing that he gets. And not very quick, not the quickest bowler going around, but just enough pace to trouble the batsman. But it's the swing in the air where he really excels. And I'm just loving the improvement of him throughout the years. And I'd like to see him actually get a gig in the longer format as well, especially with a new ball in that longer format. I think you'd probably just about take him over to England with those Duke balls and give him more opportunity there at test level. So watch out for that space with Arshdeep Singh. Really loving what he's got. And I'd love to see him and Mohammad Shami play together either at 1KD or Pune at some stage. I don't think they'll play out Pune, but they might play out 1KD, opening the bowling with a new ball where there's a little bit of extra bounce there and movement in the air. That would be a very hard combination to play against. Salt and Duckett and the rest of the England batsmen would struggle against that attack. Maybe not Australia, but England will. The final batsman, just a little bit of cheek there. Final player that we're looking at is Tilak Varma. Now, I've really been raving about him. Number 2 batsman in the world in T20 cricket. He's awesome. He's brilliant. I love the way that his preparation. I spent a bit of time with him just before the Mumbai Indians took centre stage a couple of years ago, and saw him just before he started in his first-class career. And just loved the way that he was looking at video replays, studying the bowlers, understanding where he's going to attack the bowlers, where he's going to hit them. And he's even added more shots to his repertoire over the years as well. What he's doing moving around the crease against England, he's just getting in better positions. He's scoring all over the ground. He's going to be a captain of India in the T20 format in the coming years. Watch out for that space. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to captain the 50-over game as well. So for me, white ball cricket, Tilak Varma is your skipper moving forward. Okay, we've got other big news going around, and who was it? Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli had to go back and play a little bit of first-class cricket. The BCCI have come out and said, Virat, you can't have any more holidays. You've got to go down and play that first-class cricket if you want to play Test cricket. And the crowd came. They came. They wanted to watch him. It was packed. And the traffic was jammed for an hour or two as they all piled into the stadium. And Virat Kohli really entertained with a wonderful 6. The crowd had had enough after that and dispersed. So the Delhi traffic was not flash for probably a good 3 hours as crowd were going in to watch him and then going out after he got dismissed. But it's great to see international cricketers going back, or Test cricketers going back and playing first-class cricket. I think it's very important. Some of the comments that have come from some of his players have said, we saw him train in the nets. Now we realise how hard we've got to work to get higher honours. He's an absolute professional. He's the fittest Indian player going around. He had longevity in the game. He had 4 or 5 years where he was just dominating in international cricket. He's having a quiet period now, but all the greats go through those times. So watch out for his little comeback moving forward. And talking about greats, let's move over to Steve Smith, because Steve Smith had a long period of time of over 50 tests where he was averaging over 72. And then he went through a little bit of a dull patch. And the crowd over in Sri Lanka didn't rock up to his big milestone. There was only a couple of Australians there. There were a couple of tour groups to see him get his 10,000 runs. But he's up there with the greats. He's probably the best Australian batsman that's up there in the top 3 or 4 best Australian batsmen that we have seen. It's very hard to go past Don Bradman, Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting out that test level. But Steve Smith can really hold his head up and probably is the second best test batsman that we have seen in Australian cricket at this stage. I'm just, he could be in front of Ponting. But who's it out up front? We've got Brian Lara, we've got Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid out the back end there. Sangakkara was absolutely superb. So there's some big names there that Steve Smith is amongst. And he's probably got first innings hundreds out of all these hundreds. 88% of his hundreds have been made in the first innings. But he's always working on his game. This is why he's so good. This is why Virat Kohli is so good as well. Even though Virat's going through a tough period at the moment, they're always trying to improve the game. They're not taking it easy, even out the back end of their career. They're looking to improve. And look at Steve Smith, the way that he's taking on the Sri Lankan bowlers over there this series in his brilliant 100. He had game plans there of using his feet, charging down the wicket, then getting right back on his stumps, just working the spinners over. And that is absolute brilliance. So for youngsters out there that want to be the best cricketer they can possibly can, it's all about challenge yourself to be a better cricketer tomorrow. Don't expect to be the best. Just expect to be a better version of yourself the next day. That's why Virat Kohli and Steve Smith were the best. They knew their game, but they wanted to improve in their game, and they were just tactically so good where they knew the bowlers wanted to attack them, and they made sure that they were diligent in not letting the bowlers control them. Now, we've got one more final talking point, I think, before we get the special guest in there, Jasprit Bumrah. Can't leave Jasprit Bumrah behind, can we? He's the... Oh, I better get in the picture there. He's one of the... Well, he's probably the best bowler that I have seen. Short run-up, able to swing the ball both ways. Very good when the ball's not swinging because he's got a potent Yorker as well as a steaming bouncer. But that Yorker that he's got variety in his Yorkers. He can swing them both ways. He can get the border reverse as well. But he's also got that Malinga swing with the Yorker, the Malinga touch to his Yorker as well, where he can get it to dip on varying occasions by rolling the fingers over it. Remember, that was Latish Malinga's special skill in white ball cricket, getting that Yorker to dip. So he's got Boomer is just one above Lashit Malinga, where he can get the ball to dip with a slower Yorker, but he's also got the reverse swinging Yorkers and the conventional swinging Yorkers and the extra pace. He's definitely the best all-round bowler that I have probably seen in world cricket as a player and as an observer. So well done to Jasprit Bumrah on his awards, and hopefully, for cricket's sake, that he can stay on the park and avoid injuries moving forward. All right, enough of me. Let's get Shreyas on. Shreyas Iyer, isn't it? Oh, no, it's Shreyas from Toronto in Canada. Shreyas, how are you going?
Hey, Hoggy, how are you?
I am going very well, mate, very well. I'm just going to move the mic over here. I'm going to put my glasses on because there's a few questions that you've got to ask me. Okay. And I'm going to just have a look over here and just make sure that I follow that as well. Not being rude, but just want to make sure the followers that are out there as well get their say as well. So you live over in Toronto. What do you do with yourself?
I work in healthcare, so that's what I do.
You work in healthcare, rightio. Yeah. Okay, right. What advice have you got for me to stay healthy?
I just make the drugs.
Right.
I guess be happy. I think that should do it. Watch a lot of cricket. That should make you happy. So
definitely. I think you make the drugs to help keep people healthy. Well, I hope you give the sportsmen right drugs, mate, because if they fail a drug test, we're coming to you.
Well, not those types of drugs.
Now, you love your cricket. You go for Chennai Super Kings because you were born in Chennai, were you?
Yeah, I was born in Chennai. But Hoggy, yeah. I'm going to get right into it with you. Like, Brad Hogg is a lot of things for a lot of people. You're a 2-time World Cup winner. You played Test cricket. But the biggest memory for me of Brad Hogg is you getting Tendulkar's off stump with I think the wrong one. Talk us through it. Talk us through the setup. I'm curious to hear from the horse's mouth.
Oh, look, let's go through it because there's a huge build-up to it. Now, Sachin Tendulkar, he's a very defensive type of player, but he was just trying to work me behind point. I had a first slip in place, and I had a backward point and a deep point in this one-day game out of Hyderabad, and he's just trying to cut me just softly through between point and deep point. He was doing it quite effectively. The wicket wasn't turning that much, or I wasn't getting much turn at that stage. I thought, well, I'm going to close that up and try and get you to hit a little bit harder. And anyway, the next ball with that more defensive field, he's tried to show his authority and hit a little bit harder, and he missed it all completely and it knocked the off stump out of the ground. And I was celebrating hard. I was running down the wicket. So at Hyderabad, he was batting out the end where he just walks around and goes past the stumps that have just been dismantled to go back to the change room. So I'm trying to run down there and give him an absolute little bake. Well, not really a bake, but Gilly's grabbed me as I'm trying to run past Gilly just to run past. And all I wanted to say to Sachin is I've got the great Brian Lara in my little pocket here because I always keep my list of wickets in my pocket. Now, you're alongside him, Sachin. So that's how it all happened. But there was a little bit of a crack there, a little bit of a rock that was just sticking out. And hit the rock and turned in.
That's very humble.
Yeah.
If I remember
No,
correctly.
but the good thing about it, you've heard about the picture, haven't you?
Yeah.
I've got the
story in itself.
Yeah, I've got the picture there, and I'll tell the story where I got the picture and walked into the change rooms in our last T20 game, and all the Indians are looking at me because the game hasn't started, and I just thought, right, I've got to get his signature. He looked up at me, he said, yeah, I'll sign it. Well bowled, Hoggy. This will never happen again. Sachin Tendulkar. He's an absolute legend, gem of a guy. And that's talking about legends. That's what I love about Virat Kohli. I just spoke about Virat Kohli there. He's going through a bit of a tough patch. But when he got that 50s, out one Katie and Sachin Tendulkar was there, straight away he saluted Sachin because, it's a big moment. Sachin's a big icon of Indian cricket, and you've got to respect the past players, but you've also got to respect the people that are coming through. And every time I see Virat Kohli, he's humble, respectful, always gives you the time of day, and that's a true sign of a great.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. If I remember correctly, around the same period in a test match, you bowled a very similar delivery to Ganguly, if I remember, and you ran through, and I think you beat him with pace off the pitch against Ganguly. I don't remember where it was, but if I talk, like you talk us about, like what was the difference? Like what was the difference in setup? Because I remember even Ganguly went on the back foot, Saurav Ganguly, and I think you knocked his off stump over too. Maybe it was middle stump. I don't remember exactly, but he knocked somewhere, and it was pretty convincing. Talk us about that.
Well, Saurav Ganguly is probably about 40% of my test wickets. I got him out quite regularly. Sorry, Saurav. But look, he was looking to play back, and I think one of them was a flipper or could have been a back spinner as well. So I was always trying to keep Ganguly on the back foot. The first wicket I ever got was Ganguly.
Was that your first wicket?
Yeah, that was out Delhi, and I'd only been bowling leg spinners for 2 years. Got him around. I came around the wicket, got him beautifully caught out first slip. It was a beautiful delivery. It was the outside edge, which turned into a top edge because he was trying to sweep me through square leg, top edge to 45, but first slip I had no 45. Mark Wall from first slip run about 40 metres to take the catch. So it wasn't as good a delivery as what I set it up to be.
Okay, great. I'm going to go a little bit off script here, though. You spoke about Virat Kohli. I have a question for you. Everybody has a Virat Kohli question. When you watch like Steve Smith, like, he was struggling in the first 2 test matches, like, let's be honest about it. In the third test, he walked right across and like he did all the things to get his head across the ball and try and like get in line with the ball and all of those things. But Virat Kohli kept getting out the same way. And you showed on your preview, like it looked like he got his stump castle on a domestic game. Like I didn't really watch it, but it was like, okay, at least he got it in a different way this time. But the question is, how hard is it for someone like a Steve Smith or Virat Kohli to just wake up and go, you know what, today I'm going to do this, and you're facing like probably the best bowling. Like how easy or difficult is it to do that?
I think it's. It all comes down to mindset. I think if you go through the Test series, I think Steve Smith out the start was really fighting himself to get right, and you could just see the different patterns of his footwork. And it was similar to Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli was trying to work so hard to let the ball go outside off stump. He wasn't looking to score. Steve Smith wasn't looking to score in those first couple of innings. But Steve Smith was able to turn it around and get that fight through a difficult period. Then all of a sudden spent time out in the middle, and he was able to find his mojo. Whereas Virat Kohli didn't have enough time out in the middle, even though he got 100 in that first test match in Perth. The Australian bowlers were worn out by then, and it was probably one of the easier hundreds that he'd probably get in Test cricket. No 100 in Test cricket is easy, but that was probably one of the easiest ones that he was going to get, because the Australian bowlers at that time probably were just working their way into the series, and they were able to fight back in the Pete Bore Test, but just Virat Kohli was just concentrating on leaving the ball outside off stump. That's fine, but early on in his career, he would have been doing that quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But as he's been playing more T20 cricket, IPL cricket, one-day cricket, he's got to play out those balls to score. And all of a sudden try and change it back into Test cricket in a short period of time, sometimes can be extremely tough. So for me, it's more about changing from different formats and changing quickly. Virat Kohli wasn't able to change then.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is too, you just came off the New Zealand series as well, where there was a bit of spin there. So you're looking to play the ball a lot there, whereas over in Australia there was extra bounce, ball was nipping away a bit, ball might have been nipping in as well, trying to cover your off stump. There was so much going through his mind, and I think that's probably the least prepared that he's probably ever been here in Australia. And you've got to have respect for him. I still remember an Adelaide Test match which I was commentating on. Mitchell Johnson bounced him, hit him on the head. He just stood there, took it, and I think he made 100 that particular innings. Yeah. He definitely, I'm pretty sure it was 100 that innings. But just the courage, the dedication, the determination was all there. I think the other thing with Virat Kohli too, he's not captain anymore. I think the captaincy, losing the captaincy, has probably caused him to think differently. So he's got just himself to think about now, whereas beforehand he was setting the tone. He was leading from the front, and I think that's where he plays his best, when he's leading from the front. So I'd love to see him have an opportunity to captain India again for another 2, maybe 3 years. And just see how he goes there, because I think that's where you see the best of him, when he's a leader. He's getting the players to follow him, and I think that's where he's his best. Yeah.
Interesting. That's great. I mean, like the Border Gavaskar Trophy was fantastic. You know, a lot of people were watching Test cricket, and it was great. Like, my question to you is, like, there is a team, West Indies. You know, they defeated Australia in Australia. They defeated Pakistan in Pakistan. And now we are going to have a 2-tier system where chances are they're never going to be in tier 1. What do you go tell somebody in West Indies that, you know what, you could beat the best teams, but you're never going to get to chance to play with the big boys? What do you tell a team like that? And what are your thoughts about the 2-tier system in general?
Look, the way that you put that, Shreyas, is sensational, because you've got a 2-tier system. I wouldn't mind a 4-tier system with short turnaround, so it goes every couple of years. And the idea of the 2-tier system is to get England, India, and Australia to play the majority of a calendar cycle against each other, because they bring in most of the money. But at the end of the day, we've got to look at what's best for the future of the game. Mm-hmm. And yes, there is money aspect of it. But also, if we want Test cricket to survive, Test cricket's got to be still surviving in the West Indies, because they'll probably dominant there for a 10-year period through the 70s and early 80s. The reason why I played cricket was Australia were getting thumped by the West Indies, and I wanted to save Australian cricket. Pakistan, India, I think we've got to get them playing Test cricket against each other. I know there's political issues there. South Africa, we've got to make sure they're playing more Test cricket as well, because as they've shown this year, they're sensational. So a 2-tier system I love, but you've got to have short turnarounds to allow these teams to be able to go up and play. And if England aren't good enough, well, bad luck. You go down that rank.
But I hear the Ashes schedule is fixed till like 2050 or whatever, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, so it's tough, and you can't have it a 2-tier system where one team gets the advantage because they bring in the money, but another team is trying to grow the game in the country, doesn't get that opportunity because of England or Australia for that matter, not performing over a couple of years. So I really love the idea of the 2-tier system. We've got to get it right, but we've also got to look at the financial stuff. So it's a very delicate situation. But I'd prefer the 2-tier system, because I think if England got dropped down, they'll get straight back up in a couple of years' time, and I don't think it really damaged cricket over in England that much, because I think they're still dominant in white ball cricket, and that will still be keeping interest in the game there. So when I really look deeply at it, the two-tier system has to come in, but you've got to be fair across the board. If a team does not warrant to be up in the top tier, no matter the financial situation, off you go down to the bottom tier and fight your way back. Because you never know. South Africa might turn around, and or the West Indies might turn around where they're dominant again, and then all of a sudden you can look at a tourism aspect where you get more funds. So you'd be a little bit creative there as such. It's a good question. What do you think about it, actually, as being a fan?
I would actually stick with the two-tier system, but I would do it a little bit differently. I would have Australia A, India A, and England A play tier 2. So you get the money going, because you're going to get anyway India watch, even if India A plays. Like you just saw what happened in a Ranji Trophy game, in a, like some might call it non-significant game where so many people turn up. So if you have A teams playing, like these teams could still, keep the money flowing. You played in the CPL, so you probably know the infrastructure in West Indies is clearly not the best. And if you keep money out of the system there, like it's hard for them to grow cricket. They're producing great T20 players. But at some stage, you need the money to flow into the boats to like put it back into the infrastructure. So I would actually have India A, England A, and Australia A. Like these three countries have like hundreds of cricketers. So you could find 11. That's what I would do. I don't know what you think about it.
That is a very, very good suggestion. That is a very good suggestion. I like it. Okay. But then you're looking at the financial aspect of it, because Australia, England, and India now are spending a lot more money on women's cricket as well, trying to grow that. So there's a lot more of the pool of money going into women's cricket, which is going to affect that type of scenario. But again, we've got to be creative with it, and that is a very, very good suggestion. Because it strengthens both India, England, and Australia, because they're giving more opportunities for their players. All of a sudden, other players can get that opportunity in first-class cricket, but you're also giving opportunities of some of these teams to play better cricket as well. Yeah, you're right. Actually, that'd be a good thought. Yeah.
I mean, being like just to like push a little bit on the depth of sites like Australia, like when in the early 2000s, like in the 2010s, Australia, like maybe till 2014, 2015, really didn't have a spinner. Nathan Lyon was still kind of emerging. But if you just look at the spin bowling aspect right now for Australia, you have 3 spinners who are all pretty good playing. In fact, very, very good. I was so surprised with what Kuhneman did in India when he toured India. And you have 3 spinners playing. And you look around in the other leagues, you still got Ashton Agar playing, and you got Zampa playing. So there is so much depth in the big boats. So that's why I thought that could work. But in general, what do you think about the spin bowling depth in Australia these days?
Yeah, well, you missed one there, Swepson. I would have had Swepson over there playing in this Test match instead of Murphy, because Murphy's bowling very similar stuff to Nathan Lyon. You've got Kuhneman, left arm off spinner, and then you've got a leg spinner as well, just to add that variety. So. Yeah, I think we've got a lot of depth in our bowling department. It would have been nice for Steve Smith to be actually injured with an elbow going over to Sri Lanka, just to have an excuse not to play him and give an opportunity to another youngster with the bat. But we had Inglis get an opportunity to score 100 in his debut game. So we've got plenty of depth. England have got plenty of depth as well. I think if England could play England A and as well, give them depth and allow their 50-over players or their short-form players get more time out in the middle, and also help with the bowling department as well. So your bowlers that aren't playing in your main squad, your fast bowlers, are still getting long overs playing Test cricket in that Australia A, England A, or India A series as well. So their workloads are staying at a level that will make them more effective at Test level and less chance of breaking down. Great suggestion there. I've got a board meeting next week out the Wacker. I'm going to bring that up. Okay. Shreyas, Australia A, India A. I'm just writing that down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on, maybe like one another very interesting aspect of your career.
Yeah.
You played, you became a commentator. It wasn't good enough for you, so you went back and played again. Talk us through about it. We see a lot of people doing it these days. Dinesh Karthik, for instance, he commentates when India plays. Now he's playing in S02E07. Do you see that, that trend kind of grow, especially with the impact player and all of those kinds of things? You see people kind of extending how long they would play cricket, for instance.
Yeah, I think T20 cricket's going to allow that for certain players, especially batters and spinners. Yeah, I think that it's a great thing. When you talk about commentators over in the BBL here now, we've got overseas players coming, other Australian players getting in the comm box as well, which is good in one way because you're getting an insight of the players who are actually playing right now. But also it helps the commentators that are actually commentating to realise, hang on, I did play ages ago. It's not as easy as, it takes you back to when you were playing, when you sort of sit there and go, oh yeah, it was harder than I thought. Because when I did that first stint of commentary, it sort of became, oh, what are they doing? What are they doing type scenario. And you sort of became a bit negative as such. And it was great to be able to go back and play and just go, hang on, the game's harder. These guys are training their guts out, are doing the best, they're trying to entertain. Be positive about it because you're promoting the game. The only time I'll have a go out of play or try is if I think they're not pulling their weight or giving 100% on the training track. They haven't prepared well. Other than that, knowing all the players are giving their all, you've got to be fair to them, and you're there to promote the game. When you give criticism, it's got to be constructive criticism, not just, oh, what's he doing that for? Instead, so if a bowler's trying something, instead of saying, what's he doing that for? You can say, right, he was looking just to bamboozle him. Yes, he hasn't got the feel for that type of delivery. So let's say a wide, short one with a cut when he's got 3 deep on the leg side and all his offside up behind point. But he's decided to bowl one wide because the batsman's starting to read him and look to play that pull shot. So all of a sudden you chuck it out there hoping that his footwork has been bamboozled and he can't line you up to go over the top for an easy 6. Rather, now you've got him trying to reach because you're hoping that he's on that mindset of playing the pull. He still goes to the pull, but it's not there. He top edges it and gets the catch. So talk about it like that rather than, oh, he shouldn't have played there because he hasn't got the field there. Sometimes you've got a field set, but you bowl something different, knowing that you're taking a bit of a risk there because you know that the batsman's lining you up and you're hoping that you've bamboozled his footwork. And the same with spinners as well. I'd have men on the offside up, knowing that the batsman's looking to sweep me, but I'll go a little bit wider, taking the risk that if he goes through for a cover drive over the top of cover, he's going to get the boundary. But if he plays a sweep, he's got to reach it, and I can get him caught out deep mid wicket. It's those type of things where you start to be a little bit more analytical about the game and be kinder to the players out in the middle.
Yeah.
Let the fans be a little upset, but not the men. And it's such an emotional thing, isn't it? Sport. You'll be watching the Chennai Super Kings. I'll be watching Kolkata, and something's not going right, and the emotions start to rise. You get a little bit tense because you want your team to win, and all of a sudden you see someone play a wide delivery, which is in the wide line, nicks it. And you go, why did he play that? Why didn't he do this? Well, the player's committed to that shot and he hasn't executed it quite as well. And these things happen. I think we get caught up too emotionally, and I think sometimes as a commentator that can happen as well.
Mm-hmm. Talking about field sets and spinners, one question that's kind of drawn me to the edge of exasperation is, why does Nathan Lyon always start with a long on? He's so good. Why does he want the bat? Why does he want to give a single to the batter first up? Like, help us understand.
Rightio. So you've got your deep man, especially in Test cricket. So you're trying to play with the batsman's footwork. You're trying to play with his rhythm as well. So when you first come on, deep mid on, you've got him out there, you're coming over the wicket, trying to turn the ball back in. You know that the batsman's looking to hit with the spin. You've got a catching mid-wicket as well in place. So you've got someone short on that leg side. That catching mid-wicket might be slightly straighter because the deep mid-on's out. But what you're trying to do is get the batsman to push at you early. So you're hoping to get a little bit of dip on the ball and a little bit of drift and causing the batsman having to push at it. Because it's dropped, it's a little bit shorter than the batsman's expected, and that causes him to hit it a bit uppishly. And because he's looking for that mid-on gap, he's either mistimed it straight back to you as the bowler, or he's hit it the short mid-wicket and hopefully in the air where you've got those catches in short. If he's tried to turn it wider of that straightish short mid-wicket, you're hoping that it doesn't turn as much and the drift has caught the outside edge, which can hit it back to you, a leading edge to you or cover, or you get a fine edge to first slip or the keeper. So that's why you've got the deep mid-on out there early on in your spell. The one thing that I'd love Nathan Lyon and a lot of spinners to do is, right, every now and then bring that mid-on up and make the batsman play a little bit more aggressively. So he's hitting that fielder a little bit harder. And because he's trying to overhit it, then it brings those catches into play. But also he might charge you and you bring in the stumping chances. And then after a couple of balls, you push him back out. And then the batsman goes back in a more conservative way and is a little bit more tentative about the ball. So you're playing with his rhythm there. That is a really good question, good observation. And Shreyas, that's fantastic. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in your analysis then, like, do you think that's like a attacking move at times? Like can that ever be attacking move, like to put a fielder back, especially with the in-out field these days? Could that be attacking? And like batters are scoring the fastest these days. I think in the last 20 years of Test cricket or whatever, this is the fastest scoring time in Test cricket. Like, do you think that could ever be an aggressive move?
Yeah, well, I think it is aggressive move. It's a proactive move, especially with the aggression that batsmen are playing now. I think sort of back in my time, I look back and I wish I used it a little bit more, or I wish I used it a lot actually. But I didn't want to give runs away, type thing, and I was trying to get the batsman to hit a little bit harder. But they were a bit more defensive back then. But now with the batsman trying to take you on, I definitely try and use it a lot more now as an attacking weapon. And even with the sweep shots as well, you put the fence out there, and then you bring if he stops playing that type of sweep, well then you bring him back up and try and get him to play that and bowl a different ball. So if someone's trying to sweep me, and you want to tempt him to sweep, I'd go for more overspin to get the extra bounce rather than the conventional spin where it doesn't bounce as much and it's easy to control. So little things like that where you're playing with the field, I think we're going to see a lot more of it these days, yes. And I think it's great. And Sri Lanka do that all the time. They even did it with Murali. And it's a great tactic, yeah.
Nice. We spoke about commentators playing. Like, there is one commentator that so many of us want to see play, David Warner. Like, what do people see in Fraser McGurk that they don't see in David Warner? Like, it kind of like, I'm like, I was watching the auctions and I was like, okay, like Fraser McGurk is going for a lot of money. That's great. That's fantastic for him. But what did Warner do wrong not to get picked?
Yeah, well, I just think he slowed down on his strike rate, and I think the game's changed over the last decade. David Warner coming on, he was flourishing. He was scoring at such a high strike rate for the time, but he just hasn't been able to improve that over the last couple of years consistently. Whereas Fraser McGurk, he's got a little bit of X factor about him, but I think the price tag that's on him at the moment and trying to invest in him so early, I think it's a huge risk, but it's a risk worth taking. Sometimes you've got to have a gamble to have success. You can't play the same hand all the time. You can't be conservative all the time. If you want to win tournaments and you want to win them well, you've got to have that X factor, and I think that's probably why they've gone with Fraser McGurk. rather than David Warner. But I think it's the other batsmen around him as well, because I think the best T20 teams have a very good defensive game with their bowling, but they've got one or two batters in there that are really attacking, but the other batters around there, if they don't come off, they're able to get them to that 150 total, where the bowling team has half a chance of defending. So that's my mindset, or that would be the approach with Fraser McGurk. If I was a coach and I had a clean slate, I'd be looking at 2 aggressive batsmen and then 4 batsmen that can just score around about a strike rate of 120, 130 consistently and get me to 150 if the other 2 batsmen, my 2 striking batsmen, get nailed. And I'd really focus on my defensive game with strong bowling. Yeah.
Nice. Talk us about the other big opener in Australia, the kid.
I think he's not playing in this Test match. He's Travis Head is opening the batting, and I think this is a great thing for young Constas because he's just had a little bit of exposure to it. Really lapped it up out the MCG. And really took the game on. I thought it was sensational. And you need that because it was a talking point about the series. It really, hang on, this cost us. Everyone was talking about it. It's great. But now he's had a taste of it. He's going to be sitting there in Sri Lanka, and now he can really think about his game. The big thing for him is not to overthink it. The big thing for him is to know that he's going to get other opportunities moving forward and just go out there and play with that attacking nature that he's got, back himself, be confident, because you've got to be confident in anything you do if you want to have a little bit of success and take the game on. And I just love it. And I love the way that he walked down to Siraj, and because Siraj was giving it the big note, and he wasn't going to hold back. And I like that. And I like that confrontation. And as long as the players, when they get off the field, are fine, get on really well, out in the middle, it's just like 2 brothers going at it in the backyard. Like have you got a brother?
I don't.
No. But if you had a brother or your best mate and you're playing cricket in the backyard, you're teasing each other, you're playing around, you're mucking around with each other, and you're trying to get one up on your mate. That's exactly what sport should be out in the middle when you're playing at a professional level. You play to win, you play to have fun, you play to take on the opposition, but you also play to make sure that you get some good mates out of the game as well moving forward.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So,
go on. Have you got one more, have you?
Yeah, let's go to the last one.
Yep.
This is something because, people watch cricket so much on TV these days. When Mitchell Johnson bowled in the Ashes, and I think 2013 or whatever, the speedometer registered 140 to 145. It never went to 150 or whatever. And when you have, we have so many bowlers hitting that speed these days, but they get tongued all over the place. But when Mitch Johnson was doing it, it was so hard. What was different about it? Was it just the extra bounce or the angle? What is so special about Mitchell Johnson bowling that pace? And when the others bowl, it's kind of sits up to hit. What's changed?
Yeah, well, Mitchell Johnson was a bit like Steve Smith as such. Early on in his career, he was finding his way, but then he just had a purple patch where he was really difficult to hit. But he got his rhythm right. He's got power, his strengths. He's one of the strongest players I've ever come across. But just that explosiveness and the extra height, the extra bounce. He gets the extra height too with the way he got over that front leg as well. He was just explosive, exciting, and he was just unbelievable. He's one of the quickest bowlers I've ever faced. I'll share a story with Mitchell Johnson when he first came in the Australian team. We're over in South Africa, a one-day series. We're at Joburg in the nets. He's bowled me one, and I slightly just backed away. Tactical move in the nets to preserve myself. Not really about a tactical move against Mitchell Johnson. It was short. I got a good cut, over the point region, and it's gone into the golf course in the back of the net. It would have gone for six in the game. And he's just looked at me. He goes, "If you back away again, I'm going to follow you. So I'm going to go for your body type thing. I'm going to hurt you." After that, I was scared. I was scared facing him in the nets. He was dynamite, absolutely explosive. But real lovely guy, quiet, great heart, and it was just it was a privilege to play alongside him for Australia, and also here in WA as well in the setup when he came here from Queensland. Lovely guy, and deserves the success that he had. Yeah, no, it's a good one. But just the extra bounce with the pace, it's very hard to find bowlers like that. You had Akhtar, who was extremely quick but didn't really get that same bounce as Mitchell Johnson. Brett Lee had similar pace, similar bounce, but I think Mitchell Johnson was probably a little bit more dangerous or unsettling than probably Brett Lee on a consistent basis, because Mitchell Johnson had the left arm coming in when he got it swing, but also that extra bounce as well, which created a little bit more difficulty for a lot of right-handed batsmen. So, nice. That is so good, Shreyas. Thanks very much for joining us today. It was a great conversation. And sorry, everyone out there, we didn't get your questions. We're running out of time now, but we're going to go through those questions, and I'll get them up for next week, those questions, and just answer all of them for you guys that follow me out there on YouTube. Now, if you want to be like Shreyas and join me here live on Hog Out, what was it, the Google form that you filled out, Shreyas?
Yeah, exactly, the Google form. I think you got it on the comment section or like the description section.
Yep, easy to find?
Very easy to find. Very easy to find, yeah.
Yep. Thanks very much for joining me, and your knowledge of cricket is sensational. Yeah, you make sure you get that, you get the right health out there, the health medications for everyone out there, because we've got to look after each other. Thanks very much, Rez. And thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Hog out.